Hi, I'm Al Lowe, and I'm listening to Adventure Game Hotspot.
Welcome back or welcome front if it's the first time joining us. I am Joshua, YouTube's Weird Gaming Adventure and part of Adventure Game Hotspot. As always, we have Jack Allen,
Hello.
and we also have Anna, two for two,
Yay.
Kapia game developer. How are you guys doing today?
I'm great. How about you, Anna?
I'm doing awesome. I'm glad to be here again and to talk to you guys. It's just a lot of fun as always. I'm very excited.
Let's see that shirt. I see just the top. It says Adventure. Yes.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, I finally get my work clothes.
Well, I gotta say, for those that don't know, again, she created, her and her husband created the Kapia. I got my my game box in along with some of the goodies. Wonderful. It was beautiful, well put together. And we'll definitely talk about that shortly. Before we get started, really, let's kick it on over to Jack real quick, and he could tell us what we've been doing over at Adventure Game Hotspot this last week.
Well, keeping busy. We wrapped up last week, of course, with our launch day review of Colossal Cave. And I gotta say, that was kind of a highlight for me, not just because of the game or whatever, but we only launched the hotspot in October, so we've been playing catch up on all of 2022 games. So it was so nice to have a launch day review again, and I hope that will just be the first of many. But yeah, it really felt good to be, reviewing a game that was, hot off the presses, so to speak. So yeah, but we also reviewed a little French-Canadian thriller called The Whispering Valley, and Spike Chunsoft's latest game called AI The Somnium Files, Nirvana Initiative. So yeah, lots of good reading there. New release today, worth mentioning. It's called Grund. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Grund. It's sort of a real surreal Lynchian noir tinged thriller. So that looks fun. And if you're a Switch player, the Excavation of Hobbs Barrow is out. So you can get playing. And a bit of interesting news this week too. A sequel to the old Shadowgate game was announced, called Beyond Shadowgate. If it's going to happen though, it's going to have to be crowdfunded. So they're going to be doing a Kickstarter in a couple weeks. And speaking of Kickstarters, the devs of the Paints Creek Killings have launched a Kickstarter for their new game called Scene Investigators. So, run on over there, support them, because the Paints Creek Killings was awesome.
It's interesting to see an NES game up for Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Retro's back,
excited
man.
to say retro, man. Did it leave?
It did. Yeah.
It's crazy how in the past they tried to hide their pixels. Now they literally create pixels.
That's right. Yeah. Wearing them on their sleeve.
We'll be talking a little bit about that. And we have Anna to do it. Anna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your project that you had, Kapia.
Oh, well, I'm with 242 team, and we actually, 1 day ago, we launched our first project, Kapia, except it wasn't 1 day ago, it was 1 year and 1 day ago. So
right.
it is kind of an anniversary.
Almost your anniversary, yeah.
Yes, almost.
Happy anniversary, Kapia.
Thank you. I'm taking it for the copy, and
no, of course.
Thank you. Yeah.
You should. It can't speak for itself.
So the copy is a 3D point-and-click adventure. As people like to call it, we just usually address it as an adventure because it can be played both as a point-and-click, standard point-and-click with mouse, and it can also be played on controller. And it's about this guy who sets out on a quest to find a solution for the problem that they're having, and they're having this huge war between the East and the West. And his granddaughter Rennie is helping him out in finding this solution. And of course, together they are solving this problem and finding out a lot of things as they are journeying together.
Would you describe Kapia as a post-apocalyptic game?
In a way it is, but I mean, I think it's just not just post-apocalyptic. I think it's just apocalyptic game, a funky apocalyptic game.
Ouch.
Yeah, the reason why I ask is because we were talking a little bit about it a couple weeks ago, and we mentioned Kapia being one of the games that was, in my interpretation, as a post-apocalyptic. And I said, why don't somebody make a game that is apocalyptic? we've had pre-apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic, make it apocalyptic. So I guess in a way I was wrong, and I'm glad to be.
I think you're. It's like more of a transition, you know, where you go from apocalyptic to post-apocalyptic. So
Yeah, I guess there's no kind of banner that comes out saying the apocalypse is now over.
It's here.
Everything
No.
after this.
no, there is a banner like that. They always, you know, the apocalypse is here.
It's called a
Yeah,
big old.
exactly.
It's called a big old dome. Right.
Yeah.
We need another banner. The post-apocalypse is here. We should put it in copy.
So Anna, you may have already started to answer one of my questions to you, but how did you decide, like, a 3D point and click game isn't necessarily the norm. It's usually sort of a 2.5D. How did you decide that you wanted 3D and a point and click option? How did you settle on the kinds of mechanics you chose for Kapia?
Oh, well, originally we thought that we were gonna pull off, you know, just a third-person view, but after finishing chapter 3, we realized it's not gonna happen with just 2 of us working on it. So we just decided to, you know, simplify it for ourselves and switch to stationary cameras, you know, just it gave more of this point and click feel to it, but you can still control a character with a controller. So I mean, it just some of those mechanics that we put into it remained, and the new cameras were brought in. So it's in this way, it's kind of a hybrid, but also, you know, how right now people usually address games in a way that they're point and click, that they refer to it more of a genre, of more of a kind of story-driven games. They call it a point and click game, you know. So in this spirit, Kapia is very much a point and click adventure, because it has a lot of puzzles, and they're not easy puzzles like you would see in modern adventure games. They're more of a, you know, they do present some type of challenge where you do have to think, and not just, you know, have a lot of hints and just go click through it. So in this spirit, it is very much a point and click adventure. And of course, I mean, we decided on this genre because, I mean, we're just such a fans of, you know, this retro Green Fandango kind of games, and it just came natural. And we are huge fans of 3D because I think it has so much to offer in our developing environment, and we're on such a wave right now where a lot of new techniques are coming in. There is just so much technology that there is here to assist us. So I think that 3D is where we really want it to be, and I'm glad that we are right now where we are.
And you mentioned actually you answered my second question that you were going to have. You know, you talked about specific types of things that make Kapia unique. You mentioned a hybrid aspect, and you mentioned the inspiration, Grim Fandango. Any other inspirations for the game, and maybe for your upcoming games that you have?
The upcoming game is going to be a bit different from what we had. I think we're going with a more of a modern approach, more of an adventure approach that we have, that you would have in mind today, you know. But I mean, the inspiration, I mean, we just, you know, when you're a teenager and you play those games, it's just the dig. I mean, that was such a huge influence on Kapia, and it doesn't have to be 3D. Not everything has to be 3D, and you know, a lot of things that we had in Kapia came from books, in fact. And of course, a lot of it came from the more modern world, and where we were finding ourselves during the development. And of course, we did a lot of traveling during the development. I don't know, I keep talking about it in every interview, but I know that I'm not that famous that everyone knows my life story. So we did do a lot of traveling during the development, and we did meet a lot of people, and a lot of their stories went into this, you know, into this game. So I think it is very personal and very unique in that way. And our next game is going to, you know, it's going to follow that trend. It's also going to be very personal, and one thing that we want to do, we want to implement multiple endings and play with time a little bit in our next project. It is very ambitious. I mean, I think it's even more ambitious than Kapia was, which was very ambitious for 2 people to create. But I'm very excited for what we are going to do next as well.
Hey, do you mind if I jump in and ask a quick follow-up question on that?
Okay.
You mentioned playing with time. Are you talking about like a timed puzzles or timed endings? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Time jumping.
Oh,
It's
playing with
going to
time.
be,
Time
we are
travel.
going to play with time inside the story. That's
Okay.
probably as much as I'm gonna
Okay. Sure.
go into at this point, because I don't wanna, say too much.
Understood.
So this was your first time making a game, as far as I know, right? For both you and your husband. Okay. So
Right.
like in terms of development tools, are there lots available? Are they accessible to a new developer, or like how much of a kind of skilled programmer
Okay.
you have to be to make a game like Kapia?
Well, the Kapia was our first game, but before that we had a lot of experience, about 10 years of experience working in the industry. So, interestingly, it's a really good question, especially for me at this point in life, because our next game, I'm going to be participating much more in the development process than I was in Kapia, because most of the setups were done by my husband. I was more of a modeler, and I was creating models for the game. I was creating a lot of I was creating dialogues for the game and a lot more, but I wasn't participating as much in technical aspect of the deal. And in this game, I am going to be participating more in the technical aspect. So right now, I'm actually learning those tools. And what I can say from from my freshman year in this, you can have it as difficult as you choose. For Kapia, my husband he's a really great coder, so we're not limited by anything apart from what we could come up with, and of course, the resources time-wise. If you have a great idea and a little coding, you can still make a game. It won't be as technically advanced probably, but I mean, you can still do it. You can still pull it off, just as long as you know some of it. And there are a lot of tools available right now that are not overly expensive. There are options available from starting from basically nothing and ending in cosmos.
Right.
So you have to pick and choose and set your mind on the budget, set your mind on the time frame, and I think if a person is interested in this lifestyle, it can be done for sure.
And you are a 2-person team. Is that something that you're going to continue to do, or do you expect to perhaps add teams as you go forward?
Well, we are a 2-person team. But I mean, we do have voice actors, and we do hire musicians and people who can support us. Well, what we are planning on doing this time is going to be basically same base, and I will be still doing modeling and will be doing writing for the game, but we are going to be having some help regarding maybe some advertisement and things like that.
And follow up on that. Sorry, Jack.
Go ahead.
I heard it, so I got to ask. Well, you're obviously, I think one of the things that really helped, aside from having a nice design and a beautiful story, is your marketing abilities. So, you are on social media, you are building relationships with people, and now you're saying, add to your marketing, add to your advertisements. Do you think that that the way that social media, the way marketing is in general, is it easy now to promote a game without a publisher, or is it something that you would recommend for people just to try to do it all yourself in that regard?
Well, what I did on social media is a little bit far-fetched from marketing. I was building a lot of connections, and I was talking to a lot of people, but it was more of, you know, for me, it was something that I wanted to do, something that was helping me through this development. But when you go into marketing, especially indie marketing, it is a difficult thing to do on your own. I can't say 100% that publisher is something that you will necessarily need, especially with advertisement, because I mean, all the publishers that I have encountered, that's the first thing they say, okay, we're going to do marketing for you. And then you go in and you start asking, okay, what are you going to do? What kind of feedback are you expecting to get from this and that you're promising to us? And then a lot of times they don't really have a certain answer, because marketing is quite unpredictable. So for someone who is a new developer, I would recommend to look into this as well, because I mean, it is very difficult to finance a game on your own. So maybe you want to bring in, you know, some finances from a publisher, and then that's where they can help you with your advertisement as well, like, you know, in the package. So that's something you definitely want to look into if you have a great demo and you have a great idea. But also there are other options. I mean, you can hire an agency, you can hire some help regarding it. I mean, there is a whole array of possibilities here. I mean, you can go as low as you can just, you know, talk to marketing people. I mean, it will cost you money, but I mean, you can just ask for advice. You can ask them, is this a good direction for me? I mean, you're going to Kickstarter. Okay, just, you know, set some money aside. I mean, make that phone call, just, you know, talk to people who went through this. And there will be people who will be doing this for you, you know, just giving you free advice. But I mean, there are people who know exactly what you should be doing. They will be looking over your page. They will be looking at what you're doing on social media. Don't jump into, you know, those dangerous deals without having that knowledge. So that would be my advice for people who haven't gone through this yet, I guess.
Yeah, and even if you like bring in sort of a professional PR person or marketer or publisher or whatever, I think the key, particularly in the adventure genre, which is so niche still, is to do what you did, which is to be active in the community. Like I think that's really key. It's so hard to get any kind of mainstream publication to pay much attention. Like even if you do the best press releases or whatever in the world, there still aren't that many publications or websites that are going to devote much attention to a little adventure game by an unknown developer, right? So I think what you did is absolutely key, you know, to be active on it, like long before the game is out too. You can't just like, hey, here I am, here's our game, start paying attention to us. You know, you have to have sort of, you know, inserted yourself into the adventure game community ahead of time so that people are already supporting your project as it's coming along, and then they're happy to see it finish. So you know, well done for you doing that. And yeah, in terms of like I'll tell you, running an adventure game website, most developers are absolutely horrible at marketing their games. Like a lot of them don't even reach out to me. And if you're not contacting the people who are out there trying to actively promote your game for free, then you are not doing everything you can. So, you know, that was never a problem with you. You know, I knew all about Kapia, and that was great. And I was happy to help promote it. So, yeah, it's really, really important.
People are wary to promote or to invest financially or emotionally in a faceless company or a faceless game. And so, yeah, you did a great job on that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It, you know, warms my heart really, because I mean, I've put a lot of work into building this community, but again, I mean, it was very much rewarding on itself, because I mean, the critique that we got and the feedback that we got during the development was really helpful, and a lot of testers actually who helped us make this almost bugless game in the end. Came from our community, and it was absolutely amazing. And it was great to, you know, to just share this experience with those great people, you know, just this release. It was just amazing to share with everybody.
Well,
So
we're happy
thank
to
you
have
for
shared it with you. Yes.
thank you for helping out. Thank you for making this happen with us.
And we'll definitely be doing that with your next adventure that's coming out.
Definitely.
We're going to be talking a little bit about the specifics of the advancements in the industry. Why don't you summarize real quick about what you have coming up, though, with your next adventure? Some of the advancements that you're going to be using, some of the tools and such.
Some of the tools. Well, you mean like
Mechanics.
Or
Mechanics.
even just mechanics, like
Mhm.
anything different about the new game that maybe you didn't have in the first one, or
well, it is going to be more of a modern approach,
Mhm.
as I mentioned. So we won't be having maybe puzzles will be a bit like less intense.
Mhm.
For example, with Kapia, we had 3-level puzzles where you have to do something this and then sometimes of that, and then it goes to 3 and even 4 levels. Now we are going to probably do 2 and 3 at most.
Mhm.
So that's something that we want to do, and we really want to kind of bring in psychological aspect into the game, and we are really viewing this project more of an art project,
Mhm.
more like a novel, I guess.
Oh.
I'm very excited about it, really. I think it's something that we've been working on for a while, actually. It actually crossed Kapia in like a few years. So it's been long in the development.
Mhm.
And I'm very excited, to share this new story with the world.
any
Well, I
sense
hope-
of when you might be kind of springing the news on the world? Or I'm not trying to pin you down to anything, just a sense of how soon or how far off.
Today, Jack. By the
Yeah,
way,
yeah. Hey, if you want to break it today, the floor is yours.
Well, we are, I don't know, it's probably a little bit early to announce, but I mean, I've already sent out the name to those few who backed us on Kickstarter with the box version. Yeah, so those few already have the name in their boxes.
So
But
it's out there.
it's out there. It's out there. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, hold on. Maybe if I show this, just like, give you a little bit of visual.
it's the origami killer, guys. It's Heavy Rain 2. Love it. So you said you guys had at least 10 years in the industry before, and of course you made this game prior. So we're going to actually call upon you to kind of break down some of the advancements in the industry. And Jack's better with this stuff than I am. Like Jack's the more technical guy when it comes to the gaming industry. I'm just one of those guys that smile a lot.
Boy, if that's true, then you are setting a low bar, because
are
am
we in
not
trouble?
a technical guy.
Oh,
But
boy.
no, I want to talk more about sort of maybe the future of adventure game mechanics. I mean, we're sort of all accustomed to, what the genre has done. So I'm going to throw out a few different sorts of mechanics, and I'd just like to get your take on it. You started to address the first one already, which is just 3D. I don't think most and this is absolutely no reflection on you or Kapia, believe me, but I don't think most adventure game developers really know what to do with 3D. They know it's amazing or it's got loads of potential, but I haven't really seen it utilized to like really great effect very often. So, what is the future of 3D to you, Anna, in terms of adventure games?
What I feel is going on right now, it's kind of, we are reliving what we had in 90s. So we had like 2D, and then it jumped to 2.5D, and I do feel that next step is going to be 3D. And I think that a lot of advancement in this will be pushed through with VR and also with AI, because we have all those amazing tools right now that are starting to pop up. I mean, artificial intelligence is just, I think it's going to revolutionize the whole genre quite a bit. I mean, obviously we're not going to have, AI creating our characters and stories. Well, not yet, not the way it's doing it right now, but the way it can help, it can assist artists in coming up with like interesting characters. For example, I mean, I would see, if I were to make a horror game, I can see myself, I mean, jumping all over this. I mean, just what AI is coming up with, just, you know, just a simple drawing of a girl is already horror story in itself. But I can see that, but actually, I mean, that's what we usually see in AI. I mean, we can just see the visual aspect, but actually, we are already using a lot of it in movements. So in 3D, a lot of movements are assisted with AI. For example, how you can have a character move through, let's say, a boat and grab onto, say, let's say, all those ropes that are hanging through it. That's something that is already there and can be very much used. And you know, the analytics that are being assisted with AI are also amazing. And of course, VR, and that's another aspect. That's something that we are already looking at. And I've tried VR myself. I'm a huge fan, and I think, I don't know, I think it's just an amazing thing to have. It's just a, you know, for me, it's like we used to use a dial-up phones, and then you get this mobile phone. You open up to this whole universe. I mean, you put on those glasses, and you know, you just fall in inside that game. And I think that's where 3D will come in, and of course, will be very much in use. I don't know. Maybe we can, I can actually imagine how you would put 2D in VR, but I think that 3D is going to be much more effective than that.
I don't even have a frame of reference from like the video and the graphics side of it, but I do know that AI in general, it's getting smarter and smarter exponentially. I'm talking just over the last couple of months with the, what is it, the VTR? In fact, Ken Williams just created a blog last night that's wildly popular right now, where he basically had a whole setup. Give me this pitch, write this part of the game for me. And he says it's almost better than what they could do, just sitting there writing, just giving a couple variables in it and it telling him. And that's something that was not available 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And now Google's already trying to better that now. It blew me away. It scares me as a creative because it's going to make me obsolete real soon.
I don't think it will, actually, because I think it's just a tool. I mean, we are always afraid of new things. I mean, you know, when the first microwaves appeared, I mean, you remember the thrill. I mean, it was, oh my God, it's going to blow up our kids' brains all of a sudden. But now we're kind of, you know, it just makes a great coffee and we're fine with it. Just warms it up just into a perfect temperature. So I think it's, you know, it's just this effect of, you know, having this scare, and then you will be just like, oh my God, how did I live without this? Like, how did I live without Google? Well, we thought that, you know, it's going to just destroy those libraries, and instead it just became this huge library at our palm. It's just, I think it's pretty neat. I think the new technology is pretty neat. I think it's very promising. I think it's going to blow up to enormous proportions artistically.
That's interesting. AI was certainly one of the things I was going to mention, but I was coming at it from a totally different angle in terms of sort of an actual in-game AI doing some like adaptive learning. I know there are some games that have dabbled with that. Like I think Acolyte came out last year, which did a little bit of that. And that I don't really like. That has some really interesting sort of dialogue possibilities, but I don't really see it becoming a big component of adventure games, because like even just designing a game around branching dialogues and branching plot paths is like a nightmare for most developers, because you know everything requires assets, right? So like unless it's sort of a really limited self-contained you know, part of a game, I don't see it being too prominent in games. But I hadn't even considered some of the kind of behind the scenes benefits of AI and stuff like that. So that was really insightful. You also mentioned VR. Of course, I was going to talk about that. But the VR games that I've played seem to, it's like a new toy that people aren't exactly sure what to do with yet. to me. Like, it's really wonderful, but then how do we make wonderful games based on this wonderful tool? You know, like, have you played any games that, like, not the technology, but the games themselves that were like, this is so amazing in VR? And if you haven't, how does that, how do we get there?
Well, right now I'm playing Resident Evil 4. And I mean, that's something that's an old classic that they actually transferred to VR. And it's freaking cool. I mean, when you have like these monsters running at you, and you have, you know, it's a different level of falling into this universe. Like you used to have a book, and then okay, you just, you know, you use your imagination and how it all works out, and then okay, we're giving you this visual, and you have those movies, and you, oh my god, I have to use less of my imagination, I can think of something else. And now you have, you know, then you have computer games where you actually influence things, and now you have VR where what you do is actually physically is actually influences what's happening there. And I think it's just amazing. It's an amazing level of involvement with the game, and I can see a lot of mechanics popping up from you know, just having this involvement. For example, another game that I played was this puzzle where you actually have to be that robot, and you catch things, you throw things, and then you record your movement, and then you catch things, and then you again record your movement, and you know, you have this chain of robots that actually, you know, they have this goal to, I don't know, place something into a hook or something like that. So you create this chain of robots that is actually making this puzzle. And you know, so you're a puzzle, you're inside of this machine. And I think it's wicked cool. And it's just, I mean, there's my only, you know, it's just not enough games there yet. And I want to see more of those games. And I think, you know, as we are developing, as more people are starting to understand what it's all about, the more people are getting the glasses devices themselves and starting to want more. I think we're going to see more games coming up, and you know, more people getting interested in those things. And I think that actually Facebook with their Meta is going to, you know, help us a lot in making this happen much faster than we would have expected, because they did invest. I don't know how much.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they invested, but like a lot. I don't know those numbers.
Way bigger number than any of us can grasp.
There's lots of zeros. Well, and as the technology becomes cheaper too, like the demands for to make those type of games will definitely start to increase. Now, this is beyond my level of comprehension, outside of the fact that I just did an interview and got to walk through the whole development process with a company called Mer Industries, who are creating it's a MMORPG game that it's completely in-game AI based. Like it's not even a matter of algorithm pre-programs. Everything is going to be based, the reactions of NPCs and characters that they're showing is based off the things that you're doing. It's learning your patterns and all of that. And it's completely intuitive, or as more intuitive than it's ever been. And what I play a lot of those type of games, and I was testing it out. I was shocked by what they were doing. Like it's an entirely new ballpark. I've never even stepped foot in. The problem is these games are so expensive. Like every hour is way, way, way more than any other type of game. So they can only put right now certain parts of it, like certain types of things are eligible to actually be involved in it. But man, once we get to a point to where it's all like that, holy moly.
Now imagine yourself in this 3D universe where you have, you know, this AI character coming up to you, and it already knows all your habits from Facebook, and just, you know, starts talking to you as if it knows you.
Well, this is
based. I mean, that's just one of the possibilities.
And this is based off your game. It's not even what you do in that game. It's based off all their other games, the things that you have actually typed in prior to going into the game, and those type of things. It knows your personality type. Very, very interesting. It's scary. It's scary.
It is scary, but technology is scary. It's always scary. I mean, can you imagine what people felt like in like 19th century? I mean, I think they were freaking out. I mean, this whole electricity stuff, I mean, what's going on? But I mean, I think it's just so exciting that we're finding ourselves in this revolutionary environment. I mean, we can just, touch this. It's just touch this emotional. I mean, people are still fascinated with steampunk and stuff because, I mean, they want to touch that time, that revolutionary time that was happening then. And I think that we are reliving it right now. And I think it's awesome. I want to be part of it. I think it's very interesting.
Well, you mentioned what was it? Resident Evil 4.
Mm-hmm.
If they get to a point where VR is good, AI is good, and you're playing a game like Resident Evil, people are gonna die. People are gonna
They will.
Jack mentioned this a while back.
Heart attacks all over the place.
This is they're gonna have like some sort of warning.
We already have that warning.
I'm watching The Last of Us on HBO, and like my wife and I we haven't watched too many zombie shows or anything like that. Like I'm looking as I step out of the door. It's like, I don't want to do that in the game, man.
Yeah, they're gonna have to come with little biosensors for your finger, so it's checking your pulse while you're playing or something. It's like, okay, you better slow down here, pal. Your pulse is racing. But I mean, I can see it makes sense for me with games like Resident Evil, where everything all around you is important, and there are physical things like shooting or bashing zombie heads in and stuff like that, but that doesn't necessarily apply to adventure games. And I'm still a little worried that adventure game VRs are still just amazing worlds that you're just kind of running around without much different to do in. So that's my concern. So that's going to fall on people like you, Anna, to
change your
innovate
mind
and make.
You'll see. You'll wait. You'll wait.
I can't wait. It's just that's what I've seen so far. So I just I want that encouragement to know. Oh no, this is really going to suit the adventure genre too. Okay, I got two more mechanics to float by real quick.
Let's try to keep it under 4 minutes if we can. Maybe throw them 4 minutes each. How about that?
Okay. The first is sort of cross-genre hybrids. Is the adventure genre's future lie in becoming less like adventures? Adding in more shooting, more platforming, more mini games, more quick time events, stuff like that.
So what I see, I'm going to try to make it very quick, but it's a big idea. So what I see is happening is actually an adventure game as we knew it is actually splitting into three. We have this more modern adventure where you don't really have to do a lot of puzzles. It's like a story-driven adventure. We have another type of adventure which is actually more based on puzzles. It's just basically puzzles, and then randomly you have characters popping up, and they're just like, okay, this and this happened, and then you go follow the mission or do whatever. And then you have the third branch, where it's actually classical adventures, and that's where you have this whole point and click deal with 2D and really really strict boundaries that you cannot cross, so people won't get pissed off. So that's how I see this development happening, and I can see indie developers following their own branches and forming their own teams and doing this kind of stuff.
Don't feel like you have to go fast. Certainly, this is good conversation. I certainly wouldn't want to dumb it down by making you speed up. So.
Just double the speed.
And this last one, I don't care what the time limit is, I'm going ahead with it. This is kind of like a pet idea of mine. I proposed it in an editorial 15 years ago or something like that, and still nobody's really picked up on it, which is voice recognition. I think audio is like the great untapped technology that exists now, and nobody's done anything with it. We're still using a mouse to click and stuff like that, where we could be using our voice. The technology exists. We've all had the nightmare phone calls with the robo receptionist kind of thing, where they don't understand a word you're saying, but it's way better than that. Like medical professionals use it to transcribe notes and stuff like that. So the technology is there, and I think mechanically it's the great untapped possibility. Like, wouldn't it just be awesome to be able to control a game just by speaking commands?
I think what you're describing is like next level, how do you call them? Oh my God, it just escaped my head. Where you type and it's a quest.
Text adventures?
Text adventure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. I
So
thought it
it's
was
like
something
said next
much more
level.
complex than that.
So yeah, it's like text adventure on steroids.
It is.
Well, the localization is going to be pretty difficult, but I like the idea. I think it's very interesting. I mean, how I can totally see this being a part of, like a mini game or something like that, like a part of mechanics. Maybe in future we could have a whole, like, I'm gonna coin this text adventure on steroids mechanics.
Trademark.
That's it.
Well, there is a text adventure on steroids already. They're the games of the early games of Legend Entertainment, which was like they had graphics,
Mhm.
fairly rudimentary, but also there was like a text component too. So it was like the best of both worlds. And that's kind of like, as a first step for this technology, that's what I'm thinking. Like, have graphics, but don't have like keep it fairly streamlined, and then just like learn how to use the technology to create puzzles, solve puzzles and stuff like that. I think there's like enormous potential there.
Man. I was gonna say I could totally see it in like a co-op setting.
Yes,
At least to get
absolutely.
something started, like take cover, like you're talking into a walkie-talkie type thing, calling in an airstrike, that type
Yeah.
of thing. At the very least, that would be a nice way to start. Sounds really, really neat, actually.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, and that's where I see it being a part of mechanics at this point. But I think it's a wonderful idea. It's very interesting, and I've heard books being read on, being just automatically read by AI right now, and just it sounds wonderful. You can hardly tell. I mean, if apart from like some internet. Oh my God, I forgot. I'm gonna mess up this word. The modulation of voice, apart of voice modulation, you can hardly tell it's not a human reading it.
Right.
Inflection and modulation it's up there. It's up there now.
Yeah.
Man,
So
Jack,
if there's
I'm just
any,
seeing us play Portal 2 together co-op with that. That sounds like, oh man, I never thought about anything like that before. Never thought about it. That's interesting.
and it liberates you from, being hunched over a laptop or your desk or whatever. You can be sitting back on your
television
couch, on your, just play a game on your screen going, open door with, rubber chicken kind of thing. I'm sure the puzzles will still be dumb, but no.
There are a lot of people who are not having, a lot of use of their hands and still want to play games. And I think that would be absolutely astonishing for them. And I hope that technology will, rise to the level where we could have all the controls, optionally, just having all those controls voiced.
Movement is something that needs to be, well, better in VR. That's for sure. That's one thing that I really would like to see them
like not the teleportation or something like.
Well, something that doesn't involve having to use a keyboard or your hand or something along those lines. Like if you're walking, that type of a thing, something that should be triggered properly. So actually feel like you're actually walking, that type of a thing.
Wow.
I can only see treadmill or something like that.
Well, not I'm just talking like actually like
my cool new shoes, that are just treadmill.
Oh boy. Well, let's talk about some of the progress that we've had in video games over, the last 30, 40, well, and I'm old now. Let's just call it 40 years.
Be more.
We always end our show with the top 5. Let's end it with the top 3 today. So how about each of us go around the room and we'll choose, in turn, 3 of our favorite progressions in the video game industries. Does that make sense? Do one at a time?
You start.
Okay, Jack, you start.
Oh man, wait.
I'll go second. Anna goes third. All right.
All right. I'm going to go with a really small one that I think played a really crucial role in sort of modifying adventure games, which is the hotspot highlighter. Honestly, I have absolutely no idea how anybody survived without them before it exists. and I apologize if Kapia does not include one, but every adventure game should have a hotspot highlighter, because like if you can't find something you need, it's not gameplay, it's not a puzzle, it's not anything, it's just a hindrance. So hotspot highlighters.
And it makes a hell of a pun for a website too.
It does indeed.
Now I'm going to go way back and just say the ultimate innovation for all things when it comes to video games is the internet. That's it. Like all the answers.
Oh, that's tricky. That's
all
tricky.
the answers involve the internet, like the innovation of the internet. So now we could break it down a little bit more specific later on. But you're next.
You remember when you actually didn't have internet, and you would stumble upon a really hard spot in an adventure, and you would have to go to that guy who sold you the game, or like in the store, and find someone who would help you out. Go through.
Oh, it was so satisfying when you did get it, though. If you hadn't just like broken your big old massive tower at that point on your
just
computer.
Remember getting stuck. I mean, it was like 3 times in my life I was so stuck in a game, and I just had to ask around, begging for an answer. But for me, that would lead me to my highlight. I would say that hint system.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hint system. I like it. Jack?
Oh yeah, that was definitely on my list too. And ideally a tiered hint system, like not a, gee, I need help with this. Well, go do this and this and this and this.
Right.
And you're going, well, thanks.
But something
Exactly. Just give me a hint. It's called a hint, not a solve, right?
Right.
Not a spoiler.
The spoil system.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go. This is another thing that I proposed long ago. And I'm not saying that this was all my idea. I'm just glad that other people have picked up on it, which is incorporating more role playing into adventure games. Not role playing in the sense of combat, but in terms of what, and I'm talking like stats and everything, but like what kind of, like let's say what kind of detective you want to be. Do you want to, use psychology? Do you want to use intimidation? Do you want to, and more games are starting to do that. Games like Disco Elysium, which was a huge success. The Council game deck. So it's starting to catch on, and I think it's like a really clever way of combining the like it still feels very much adventure, and yet it's incorporating
it's
clear
not linear.
RPG
it's not
elements.
entirely linear as to how you're going to go about it.
Remotely.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do with Dora and Emil, actually.
Oh yes,
oh my goodness.
We got something out of her.
Yeah, but it's a really cool idea.
Yes.
And we were really looking into that, and I love your examples.
Yeah, so guys, Anna's going to be using RNG in her in like Dorian Mill. Was that I don't I didn't remember what the name was now. Okay. Boy, I really want to expand on that now, but we're going to move on. Okay, so I'm going to go with wireless controllers in the video game industry. Now that changed everything, like wireless controllers. Now we're talking more specifically console gaming and everything, but it could be applied to keyboard and wireless mouse, that type of thing. You can move your keyboard and your mouse onto your lap when you're playing on a computer or on the television or something along those lines. So that's mine.
I like this idea, wireless. I've never used wireless actually. I'm always freaking out. I think that my batteries are gonna, shut down at the.
It's no fun if you're playing a shooter or something that, and you're.
I would say in-game scenes. You know how we can now play on our engines. We can build the whole movie on the engine. So I would say that. Because before we had to go and do the high quality animations, and it was so costly, and now we can put almost a full motion video inside the game, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it really helps with immersion. You don't feel like you're ever taken out of the game. Oh, now I'm out of the game and now I'm watching the movie, and then I'll be thrown back into it. So yeah, it feels like all sort of the same world. Boy, I got so many. This is another very small one, but it reinforces my my philosophy that a game should always respect the player's time, which are quick travel maps.
Oh, yeah.
you know, if your game requires a lot of back and forthing, let's say, you have to be able to, you know, get from one place to another really quickly. So
Yeah.
if that's part of your design, make sure players can do it without, you know, slogging their way from one end of a map to another, you know, on foot.
That's great. I like how you're sticking to adventure games. I'm not that and that's a lot of different games in general, but I'm not that brave. I'm going to go with mobile gaming though. Mobile gaming is something that is it's been needed for so long. I don't know what I would do, and I'm not just talking about mobile gaming in general, just having a phone available to do. We have everything at our hands now, and the games are something that is so applicable, especially the point and click adventure genre. But mobile gaming is my third innovation.
Okay, since we're in this kind of realm, maybe we can mention Steam and the GOG.
Yeah.
So that's something, I mean, for indie developers, that's something that really allowed us to
Oh yeah.
actually, go in and show ourselves, show what we can do.
That was definitely on my list. I was weighing if I should do that one or not. Let's do another. Let's do two more quickly. Just throw them out there. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh boy. Okay. Physics engines in game. I love games that include actual physics, that especially as part of a puzzle. It just adds another element that you just don't get from like a point and click game. So amazing. More of them, please.
Yeah. Global chat.
Controllers. I mean, just you know, having to control your character with a controller.
Jack?
I'll say co-op. I think co-op games and more adventure games are doing it now. It used to, like, it never happened before, you know, before 5 years ago or so, but now they're becoming more and more frequent. So great.
I remember when the Sound Blaster card came out. That changed gaming. That changed gaming.
I'd say sandboxes, sandbox type of games.
Yeah. Oh, Jack, are you familiar with the sandbox games? I don't
Yeah,
know
of
if you
course.
play those style. Okay.
Yeah, I don't play many, but I'm certainly familiar with them.
Oh,
But
man.
I think it's, you know, it's great for community building, especially, you know, and kids are just, you know, going crazy with that.
This was incredible. I really liked everything that we were able to talk about. We were able to kind of break down the past and the present and maybe a little bit of the future.
Maybe a little bit of the future.
Speaking of the future, let's talk about what we have going on in AGH this upcoming week, Jack.
Okay, tomorrow is our sort of long overdue, well, not really overdue, but a long awaited, let's say, review of Stray, which is an amazing game that I'm happy to share with everyone. Next week's still a little bit up in the air. We could have an interview with the developers of The Hand of Glory 2, or a review of Beyond the Edge of Asgard. And we're going to finish the week off with our monthly video preview of what's coming up in February.
Yes, and next week on the podcast, we'll be having the gentlemen and gentle ladies of the Classic Gamer Guild podcast. So make sure you tune in for that. Anna, we appreciate you coming. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Oh, you can find me on any social media of your choice. We have Twitter. It's Anna Mimik with a K at the end, and then we have Kapia game, and you just type it into Google, and it's going to be me answering. So here you go.
And obviously you can find Jack at adventuregamehotspot.com. That's the website that we are speaking of. And it's also the name of the podcast where you can find everywhere where you consume your podcast, including our very own Adventure Game Hotspot YouTube channel now, which we will have this podcast on always a day and a half after we record it. So this was a heck of a lot of fun. Learned a lot. We really appreciate both of you. You're always so pleasant to talk to. And thank you for thank you for being such a wonderful person, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Always. Anytime you want, just give us a line.
Absolutely.
For Jack and Anna, this is Joshua, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.